Let's bring in National Security Attorney Bradley Moss. His firm's managing partner is separately part of the whistleblower's legal team. And Harmeet Dhillon, a board member for the Republican National Lawyers Association. Great to have both of you.
Good evening.
Brad, I realize this is not your case, but what does your experience tell you about this kind of case?
Yeah, so in these types of situations, there is a very high threshold, evidentiary burden imposed upon the information outlined in this type of whistleblower complaint. I've seen these same anonymous sources leaking classified information to suggest that this is based on hearsay and gossip and that they don't really have any real details. You know who hasn't leaked? The whistleblower, who went through the proper procedures, submitted this to the President Trump-appointed Inspector General of the IC. It was validated as credible by that Inspector General. And what has that person gotten in response? The president's attacking this person's patriotism on Twitter, questioning whether or not he's truly an American.
Well, Fox News is reporting, as is the Washington Examiner, that the whistleblower who filed a complaint with the intelligence community Inspector General did not have direct knowledge of the communications between President Trump and the foreign leader in question. So, Harmeet, is this all based on secondhand information?
Well, it seems to be, but of course, neither of us here knows exactly what is in that report, and so I'll reserve judgment on that. But what is very clear is that the Inspector General doesn't necessarily have the last say. The legal team for the DNI looked at this, consulted with the Department of Justice, and based on those evidentiary standards, it has to be an urgent matter and it has to sort of fit certain criteria, determined that it didn't fit those criteria. And I think that's right, because we can't have a system of government where any employee of any level in the government who works for the president can decide, because he's part of the swamp, to just go out and then circumvent that whole process and report things to a Congress that is hell-bent on dragging the president through the mud. So we do have some rules, and I'm sure this is going to get fought out. I'm sure Adam Schiff is going to end up filing a lawsuit, and we're going to go litigate over those standards. But who's the real loser here? I think Joe Biden is one of the real losers here in this situation, because the entire country and the world are being reminded of the absolute corruption exhibited by him in that bragging session about getting the prosecutor who was trying to investigate his son fired, and we're all being reminded about his corrupt son and, his absolutely ridiculous $50,000 a month contract and so-called hedge funds and so forth. And now we're also being reminded that the Democrats colluded significantly with Ukrainian officials. Paul Manafort's smear that caused him to quit the campaign was all instigated by Ukrainian officials. So a lot of information is coming out here that's not flattering to the Democrats.
You really want to bring back up the campaign manager in jail, the deputy campaign manager about to go back to jail. All these people around the president committing crimes, and you're going to try to blame it on the Democrats here? Are you kidding me with this?
I know you're representing a client here, Bradley.
I am not representing this client.
Commenting on it.
All right, well, Harmeet,
you really shouldn't be commenting on this.
Take a listen to some of the 2020 Democrats now talking impeachment.
It's time for us to call out this illegal behavior and start impeachment proceedings right now.
So, of course, it's an impeachable offense.
There is no way to defend the lack of progress on impeachment, especially after what we have just learned.
We need to absolutely right away begin impeachment proceedings. He's got to go.
But if the president is essentially withholding military aid at the same time that he is trying to browbeat a foreign leader into doing something illicit, that is providing dirt on his opponent during a presidential campaign, then that may be the only remedy.
We're running short on time, but is there a risk they're jumping the gun? Let's start with you, Harmeet, and then I'll get a final word from Brad.
I mean, obviously, they want to do impeachment. It doesn't really matter what the subject matter is. It's going to backfire on them, so go for it.
Brad?
Let's see where the facts play out. Let's see what we learn about that, and we'll make the decision at that point.
Bradley Moss, Harmeet Dhillon, thanks so much for your time.
Have a good evening.